Did you know the Wild West had a gunslinger so unpredictable, so violent, and so feared that even hardened outlaws kept their distance? His name was Clay Allison, a man who killed with guns, knives, and sometimes with his bare hands. He was known as a gentleman one moment, a madman the next, and a nightmare to anyone unlucky enough to cross his path. Unlike Wyatt Earp or Billy the Kid, Hollywood never turned Clay Allison into a legend, but on the frontier, he was already infamous. Clay Allison was born in Tennessee in 1840, and from the beginning he had a reputation for instability. Family records suggest he suffered from a head injury as a boy that left him prone to sudden outbursts of rage. During the Civil War, he joined the Confederate Army, but he didn't last long. He was discharged after his superiors deemed him incapable of military service due to what they called emotional instability. That instability, mixed with alcohol and a taste for violence, would define his life. After the war, Allison drifted west into Texas and New Mexico, where law was scarce and men like him could thrive. He established himself as a cattle rancher, but ranching was never his true calling. His reputation came from his willingness to fight and to kill at the drop of a hat. He carried revolvers and a Bowie knife, and he used them both with terrifying efficiency. One of his earliest killings was in 1870, when he shot a man named Francisco Griego in Cimarron, New Mexico. Witnesses said Allison accused Griego of mistreating a woman, and in typical frontier fashion settled the matter with bullets. In another incident, he dragged a man suspected of horse theft through the streets before executing him in public. These brutal displays cemented his reputation as a man not to be trifled with. But what made Clay Allison especially feared was his unpredictability. He could be polite, even charming when sober. Yet when drunk, which was often, he became reckless, violent, and unstable. There's a story of him riding naked through the streets of Cimarron, drunk and firing his pistols into the air. On another occasion, he decapitated a man in a saloon brawl and carried the severed head around as a warning. While some of these tales may have grown in the telling, they reflect the way people saw him, a man both terrifying and unhinged. Allison was also known for his sense of twisted honor. He once confronted notorious gunfighter Charles Kennedy, who was accused of murdering travelers. Allison and a group of locals captured Kennedy, dragged him from jail, and lynched him. Afterward, Allison cut off Kennedy's head and displayed it in Cimarron to warn other would-be killers. To some, this made him a vigilante hero. To others, it showed he was as brutal as the men he hunted. His exploits became legendary across New Mexico and Texas. Newspapers called him the Terror of Cimarron and whispered that he had killed more than 15 men, though the exact number is impossible to confirm. What is certain is that he lived by violence, and he seemed to relish it. Despite his reputation, Allison was never gunned down in a duel or lynched by a mob. Instead, his life ended in a way almost too ironic for a frontier killer. In 1887, while living as a rancher in Pecos, Texas, Allison died in a bizarre accident. He was helping move supplies in a wagon when he fell, and one of the wheels rolled over his neck, killing him instantly. After years of surviving gunfights, knife fights, and countless enemies, the man who had been called a human powder keg was done in by a farm wagon. He was just 47 years old. Clay Allison never got the Hollywood treatment, and perhaps that's fitting. His story doesn't fit the mold of the romantic outlaw or the honorable lawman. He was violent, unpredictable, and terrifying, more a force of chaos than a hero or villain. But on the frontier, his name alone was enough to inspire fear. The Wild West was filled with colorful characters, but few were as volatile and dangerous as Clay Allison. His life reminds us that for every polished legend, there were men who lived and died in violence, leaving behind stories so dark and bizarre, they were almost forgotten. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about the forgotten gunslingers of the Old West, the ones you've never heard of but should, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next tale from America, its wild frontier.